guys, my name's Teresa and we're going to be doing a fun craft today to make a letter for your guys' name out of a few different tools you guys might have around the house. So I made a cute little T with some yarn and some pom-poms, so I'll show you guys how to do that, and we'll also go and show you how to use just a few pieces of paper and some paint around the house, cut them up and make a cute little collage. And we'll also do a cute little glitter one as well. So we're going to start out with some prep stuff. What you'll need for a lot of these techniques, just any sort of yarn or string lying around the house for this one. So we have some different colors right here. We also have a little chunky yarn and some white one as well. So you can use whatever you have around the house. We also have some acrylic paint. I have a green and a pink, and I'll be using that for the little pieces we'll be using for our collage. We won't need a brush for this at all. If you guys want, you can use your fingers, or you can use just like a Q-tip, or anything like that is fine. We'll just need like a small area to make some dots and some smudges and things. We'll need some glue for the string, the glitter, and the paper, and you'll also need some glitter as well. And you don't have to do all three. You can do a mixture of all three, or you can just do one. It's totally up to you, but I'll show you how to do them all just in case. You'll start with some thicker paper, so you can use cardboard, anything like that. We can use like a cereal box or anything, and you'll just cut out a letter. You can do your first name, last name, anything like that. You can even write out a whole name if you want. So I started out with like this cute little C, and it doesn't have to be perfect to cut out. It can be a little misshapen because we'll be covering those edges up with yarn and things, so you won't even really see it at all. So we'll start out with the paint. We want to make sure that the paint is dry before we cut up our collage, so we'll do that first, and I'll kind of scoot some things over so you guys can see. So I just have some regular printer paper here for you. It's just white and doesn't have to be a color or anything. And you can use a Q-tip. You can just dip that in some paint just like that. You don't need too much paint, and you'll just kind of go around and just make a few dots. It doesn't have to be perfect by any means. We'll be cutting up a lot of it, so if you do get a few smudges out of there, it's really no big deal. It kind of makes it look cool. And then you can also go in and use your finger if you wanted more like bigger smudges or anything like that. Just make sure you wash your hands before you do anything else after this. And you can just kind of go in and make a few smudges, any sort of dots. If you don't wait for your paints to dry in between colors, it'll smudge a little bit, but if you want that blended look, that's cool. Looks good. I typically like to cover the entirety of the paper, but if you want a little white showing through, you can definitely do that. White's always a good color to use in different crafts and things. So I'll go ahead, just cover this a little bit more, and then we'll wait for that to dry before we cut it. A good way to recognize as to whether or not something is dry when it comes to acrylic paint is whether or not it's still shiny. So if you can kind of see in the camera now, there is a bit of a shine to the paper. If you look at it, it'll look pretty shiny. So once that is pretty dull and doesn't shine anymore, you know that it's ready to be cut up. And from there you can cut it up into small pieces. So we'll wait for that to dry and we can cut it up later. And then this is what the pieces of paper will look like once they are cut. You don't have to cut them into any sort of specific sizes, just something small enough that will fit on your shape. So if you have a bigger shape, you can obviously use bigger pieces. If you have one that's a little bit smaller, you want to make sure that they're pretty small just so they can fit on there with other different pieces of paper. So that's our first step. The second one, we can start on our yarn. So like I said, you can use any type of yarn. Today I'm going to use a pink and a green for you just to kind of show you what to do. So we'll start probably at the end of this C right here. I'm going to pick a back, so we'll say that this is the back. You'll get a little bit of glue, and this glue is, I think we have multi-purpose Elmer's glue, but any glue should be fine, any sort of craft glue. And what you'll do is you'll cover the back with a little bit of glue. You'll get the end of the string and just put it right on the end of the piece. Make sure it's on there. Sometimes I just like to move the glue around, make make sure it stays. And then all you're gonna do is just wrap that string around your shape. And you can cover the whole thing with one color. You can do a bunch of different colors like I did with my T, or you can just alternate between two. It's totally up to you. And you also want to make sure it's pretty tight. The more loose it is, the more white you'll see underneath, which if you want to see the white underneath, you can definitely do that. But if you just want to see the color, you just want to make sure that it's pretty tight, and you can see there that you can't see a lot of white there. So that's the goal that we're trying to get today. And that's basically all you do for yarn. Once you have a section done of one color that you like, you'll just go in, and if you see that, I'm gonna cut it about here, so the end of the string is at the very back, so when we do glue it down, you won't be able to see any fringe or anything from the front. And I'll just take a little bit of glue again. I prefer to use my finger, but if you guys want, you can use a popsicle stick or a brush or anything like that, and just kind of pat it down right on top of the end of that yarn. So that's what it looks like, and you guys can do this all the way up. Like I said, you can do it just like this and just keep going with different colors and make it look pretty nice. And we also have little pom-pom balls, so if you guys want, you can use pom-poms. If you wanted to do like a sea-themed one, you can use seashells. That's totally up to you. And you can just take a little bit of glue right on top of that yarn, just pat it down, and then just put that pom-pom right on top. And that may take a few minutes to dry, so be gentle with it so you're not flying it everywhere and the pom-pom falls off, but that's one section that you guys can do. So that's one. We can go on to the paper now. Now my second one's still a little wet, so if I were to use this, I would wait a little longer, but I'm just going to use the extra scraps I already have. And I'll even show you how to cut this little corner really quick. So this one's pretty dry in this area, so I'll just cut that off. And so I have something like this, and I'm just going to cut that into smaller little pieces. Now you can make little triangles, squares, any sort of shape is fine, but I made them pretty small, and you can see I didn't cover a lot of this area. That's why it dried pretty fast. So if you want something that's more exposed with some white paper, you can use these guys, but I think I prefer the ones I did before, if you can see those. They're all dry already and all cut up, so, and they cover pretty well with just acrylic paint. So what we're gonna do next is we're just gonna take that same glue, and I'm gonna use my popsicle stick this time, and you can just cover that whole space that you want your paper to go right up with that glue. And you can just spread it around. You don't need it to be super thick, just so there's a nice light coating on your poster board. So now I have this shape here, and I'm just gonna put it right where my yarn ends. And sometimes the acrylic paint will curl up your paper, so you wanna make sure you're pressing down on all your corners once you put it on to make sure it stays pretty flat. So there's that. And you can just go in with your other shapes that you cut out and just put them right on top. If you do put a shape on top of another, you are going to want to put more glue down on top of that shape. You can kind of see here that it curled up a little bit because it's on top of that piece. So you're just going to take a little bit more glue, just put it right on top of there, just like that. And then you're just going to press it right down. And this glue dries pretty clear, so if you do get it on top of your piece at all and it is exposed, you shouldn't be able to notice it too much. And we'll maybe put a couple more down. And there's a good start to that collage. And if you look at this one, I did stack a lot more than I did here, but once this little coat is done drying, you can add some glue to those areas. Like I said, you can definitely stack colors and pieces and make it look more like this, and I think it would be a really nice effect. So the last one we'll do is this glitter technique that we have. So using glitter is pretty easy. All you really need is glue and glitter, but if you have multiple colors of glitter, I can kind of show you how to mix those up so it does create that cute little blended effect for you. So we'll put glue down just like we did with our paper before. You just want to lay coating on your shape or your poster board. So we'll just get that on there. And glitter does get everywhere, so be careful when you are using it to make sure you have something underneath your craft so you don't get it on the table or anything like that, because it does take a while to clean up completely. Alright, so I have a pretty good coating there. I'm just going to take this plate right here and put this right on top. And then I'm going to take some glitter, and if you are using multiple colors, you can kind of do the technique my way. If you just have one, you can just kind of scatter it right on there, and just have a nice shine to it. But you'll just take this glitter and just pick a few spots where you want it to go. In this case, I think I'm going to do like a more striped effect. So what I'm doing is when I'm scattering it with my fingers, I'm just going back and forth in one area. Just kind of like you would if you were putting salt on something or anything like that. You would just kind of shake your fingers a little bit and then wait for that glitter to come right off. And then I have stripes of that green, and then I'll go in with the purple that I have. And I'll just do the same exact thing. So I'll get some of that glitter off my fingers, and then what we should be able to do is just kind of tap some of that off. And then you can kind of see those stripes. They look pretty good. And you do want to make sure that you have that little catch-all underneath you, because you see all that glitter that got everywhere, so just keep that in mind if you are using glitter at all. But this looks like a pretty good start to my shape. If you guys want to use all three, you definitely can, or you can just do one individually for each shape that you guys do. Thanks so much for watching.